you so much for having me. I'm Aaron Luber, and as Justin said, I work on the Google team, the Daydream team, which is the augmented and virtual reality team. We've got a great team out here in New York. We've got a great team in Mountain View, San Francisco, and we're very, very heavily focused in this space. We've been focused in the space for a while, and I've known Justin for a while and really just love all the efforts that are happening here locally in New York, as well as all the things that are happening globally right now in this space. You know, we're in this infant stage still, this early stage of AR and VR, but it's very, very exciting. I started my career in mobile, and I remember very similarly being at like the CTIA events or CES and similar events and talking about, is this the year of VR? Is this the year of AR? Or sorry, is it the year of mobile? And you know, that was like year after year, and then we hit scale. Similarly, we're talking about, is this the year, is it the big year of AR, is it the big year of VR? These things are all happening right now, and I'm very, very excited about all those steps that are being taken by a number of companies out there, whether it's in the head-worn space, in the mobile space. So I want to talk to you just a little bit about kind of what we're doing at Google, but what we see in the landscape and why this is important to us. Basically, you know, at Google, we do a lot of things, right? We do a lot of things, I think, hopefully for you in your day-to-day, whether that's Google Search or Google Maps, YouTube. But, you know, all the consumers that we work with or work for, you, me, you know, we know something about them, right? There's this inherent, you know, trait in everybody, very curious, very demanding, very impatient in their technology, right? We all wake up, and the first thing we do is look at our phone. The last thing we do is put our phone away, right? Constantly on phones, constantly with our technology, very demanding, very has to be, you know, at our fingertips all day long. And, you know, what we've realized is that really the way consumers are using their technology today is in these kind of micro moments. And it constitutes a number of different things, but it's basically whether it's asking questions or trying to get somewhere or trying to fix something or find something. You know, we're doing this all day long. I think you're doing it. I'm doing it. Again, night and day. And the thing that Google does really well is the thing that we do really well, which helps us kind of speak to consumers and give you the services, give consumers the services around search, maps, again, YouTube, things like that. We understand things about consumers, whether it's their intent, their context, their identity. These are all things that we use. These are all triggers we use, and not just Google, but other tech companies out there that use these triggers to deliver better experiences with technology. And really the way we like to talk about this is very simply just trying to make technology more helpful for people. Much more helpful, much more on demand in their day and day, right? But today, a lot of technology is done in two dimensions. It's done on screens. It's done on mobile screens. It's done on PC screens. It's done on TV screens. And so the important thing as to why we're doing what we're doing at Google, why we're doing what we call immersive computing, AR, it's VR, it's Google Lens. I'll talk to you about what that is. That's a big initiative that we have right now. Visual search, camera. Why this is important for us is really, number one, you know, we see this very dramatic shift happening in the next computing platform that's coming. Again, this is kind of what I was talking about around, you know, the big steps that we're taking, these early steps that we're taking, whether it was the first PC, first internet, first mobile, and now kind of in this step where we're taking the first steps to immersive, right? This big shift is happening. We talk about this. Actually, Google, we talk about this across the board at the company, whether it's people on the cloud team talking about it or people on our ATAP group talking about it. Everybody kind of talks about this in a different way. We talk about it immersively, immersing yourself with technology, but everybody's talking about this next computing shift. And that's very important. But more importantly, is this kind of idea around this shift, this bridge between the physical and the digital world, and this moving beyond this world of 2D into 3D. And I saw a lot of the pitches, really great stuff. And you can see even in those pitches and a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about today, all constituted in 3 dimensions, all constituted in seeing and understanding the world like it's really there. And what we think actually happens when you make this bridge is that immersive computing gives you a vastly richer input and output that could really solve for human needs. Now, this sounds excuse me. This sounds buzzy, a little pitchy right here, a little statement. Let me give you an example. Let me show you an example of what I think this means. So richer input, right? Input. What is input? Input is like the way I enter information into a computer, whether that's a keyboard, whether that's a touch screen, whether that's my voice, right? So instead of being able to do that, what if you could just point your camera and have that understand everything around you? So Google Lens is a product we've been working on for the past couple years. And this is using visual camera, visual and kind of machine learning, trying to understand and better realize the scene around you, whether that's information about objects or information or text. But if we think about richer input, right, I'm getting much more signals in, not having to type in those signals, not having to do a bunch of different queries. I can just very quickly glance at something, understand that thing, and get search results. Especially if you're thinking about the intent, the context, the identity, things like that. We know things about you, and we can give you an even more richer experience right back because we know these things much faster. So that's an example of richer input. On the output front, right, I'm sure everybody's experienced this. You come out of the subway here in New York, you come walking out, and you pull out Google Maps, and you start following it, and you're following the blue dot, you're like, oh, shit, no, going this way, right? You done that? I've done that many times. So what we're doing with Maps, for example, we're introducing camera into Google Maps. We're not building Maps AR, we're adding an AR feature on top of Maps, adding camera inside. And so what this allows you to do is just open the camera inside Google Maps, and now it's going to tell you where you're going. Instead of following that 2D blue dot on your screen, you're seeing the world in 3 dimensions. You're able to follow and understand what's going on. It's really, really rich, powerful stuff. And really, we think it solves for human needs in a more assistive and delightful way. And if we can do that, I think we're onto something here. More examples, kind of, what this can look like. Instead of having to enter information, you're going to the car dealership and you're trying to understand what the car is going to be like and get information about it. Search Today gives you all the results you want. It's awesome. But what if you could just, before even walking into the dealership, click and see that car in your driveway and see the size of it and see what it looks like before you even walk in, right? What if you could, instead of going to YouTube, and beauty companies, Maybelline, L'Oreal, they're doing amazing stuff on YouTube by putting tutorial videos up. And consumers come there and watch these all day long and understand how to put makeup on. And these are great uses of video and YouTube. But what if I could just move from that to actually putting makeup on me, actually seeing it on me in my real space, and really seeing that? So much more richer. And then from, just again, like all the signals that we take. So today, the Starbucks app, you guys use the Starbucks app? Yeah? It's a pretty popular app, I think. And they just launched this feature, like, I think a year ago, being able to directly buy through the Starbucks app before you walk into Starbucks. This is driving a huge amount of their sales in a very short period of time. And that's awesome. Again, you wake up in the morning, it's the first thing you do, you pick up your phone, boom. It's doing a great job. Starbucks is doing a great job of meeting you at the moments that you need it very, very quickly. But what if you could just walk up, point your camera, it understands where you are, it understands the context of why you're pointing your camera at the Starbucks. It says, hey, you're probably about to walk in there. Let me give you one-touch buying. Get your coffee, in and out you go. Right? This is really, really powerful stuff, very richer stuff that really can give you a better user experience. The other ways we like to talk about it really is compressing 10 steps to 1 step, being able to see something in your space. Again, instead of having to type in multiple queries, try to see that, you're just able to just put it right there immediately and see it. Making the impossible possible. I love this one, right? We've got a product called AR Stickers and Playground, the new Pixel phones. Basically being able to place objects and have those objects interact with you. So it's not just placing a sticker and making it look like it's really there, but as you get closer to it, it reacts. You can look at the sunshine, dark, light. Objects can see each other, things like that. You're making it's impossible to play with stormtroopers and BB-8, but you can do that with augmented reality. Come on. Come on. Making the inaccessible accessible. Getting in a VR headset, right? Again, you've seen this today with a lot of people. Like being able to go somewhere and teleport yourself somewhere and see something, right? People can't do that. You can't just go on a drop of a hat and go to, the Bahamas or Hawaii. But you can do that in VR. You can drop right in, teleport yourself, making the inaccessible accessible. And my favorite, really, making the invisible visible. There's a vast amount of information out there. We see it all day in our eyes. We see things, we can visualize those things, but we can't read each other's minds. You can't see these things. But with your phone, and again, smart camera, imagine being able to have things pop up and understand more information about the thing you're looking at. And so really, at the end of the day, the reason this is all important, the reason we think there's real opportunity here, is because immersive computing presents things like they're really there. Again, 2D to 3D. 3 dimensions lets you really understand and operate in a world that really looks more physically real. And if it's more real, and it's more ingrained with the things that Google does for you, which we hope is really at its core just more helpful, we think it's more helpful in real world. It establishes a deeper connection. It's way more engaging in all the work that we've done, in the pilots we've done, in the products we've launched. We see people spending an enormous amount of time in these products. So it's way more engaging, way more time spent, ultimately driving stronger business results. We believe that, we hypothesize that. We're again doing that in a lot of the work that we're doing right now, and we'll continue to prove that and want to make that public, via case studies and marketing and things like that. I love this last example. So I'm actually from Los Angeles, born and raised. I moved to New York a few years ago. I don't know if you are all from New York, drive a car, maybe you don't. Whenever I show this to people in New York, they're like, oh, well, I don't drive a car. But this is a user manual of a vehicle, if you don't know what this is. And so I used to look at this thing when I was in my car. And by the way, like people get new cars, and if you don't use, it's something like 70% of the things in a car people never use, right? And if you don't use those things within the first 30 days, you're never going to use them ever again. So of course, when the light comes on or something breaks or whatever, you have no idea what to do. You go to the user manual. Now this is okay, right? You can retain some information. You can get some information here. What if you could just use your phone to point and understand and see what you're doing? This embodies everything right here. 10 steps to 1 step. You're not flipping through the pages. It's very quick. You're going to retain this information. It's way more engaging, deeper connection. It's everything that you want. And the car manufacturers know this. And I think this is something we're going to see more and more of, especially from them, and just user manuals in general. So very simple use cases, but very powerful use cases. So, so that's what we think is cool. That's what we think there's an opportunity for. But it's not all rosy fields, right? This is me going to Google, typing in rosy fields in the image search, and it's the first thing that popped up. So that's why this picture is here. It's not all rosy fields, right? We're still, again, in this early stage, and we're learning a lot of things. We're doing a lot of new things. And there's challenges. We have very, very real challenges that we still have to it's not just Google, it's not just the tech companies. Everybody has to be thinking about these things as we progress this industry forward. One of the things we're really trying and need to really be very aware of is, sorry, this thing's a little finicky, new behaviors, training new behaviors. How do people understand how to put a headset on or how to pull their phone out and look at something, right? How do you even know how to do that? It's very similar. Again, I started my career in mobile, and I remember when this game came out. You guys know this game, Angry Birds? Yeah. I remember when Angry Birds came out, and that first time I swiped, and I was like, whoa, that's amazing, right? And then everything was just tap, tap, tap. That was, you're trained, we have to introduce new things that people have to do in their tech, in their experiences, for that to start catching on via app developers, via users, consumers. So we have to train new behaviors. We're still in this infant stage. We're creating a lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool tech, a lot of cool use cases. But how do you get people to actually use them? We all have to be thinking about that. I also think a lot about, actually this one keeps me up at night, is how do you create the world of 3D? If we're talking about 3D and how important that world of 3D is. Very similarly, I think about the early days, again, of mobile and online, PC, internet. These are? Remember these? These are banner ads, really shitty banner ads. And unfortunately, I think we still see some of those. But there's a Google one right there. But these are, before these came out, right, there was no standards. There was no one knew how to make these things, right? We had to kind of all the creative agencies, all the advertisers, all the brands had to come to an understanding of how to build, and consumers, we had to understand how people would click on these things, right? So in the very early days, very similarly, right now with 3D objects, we're trying to understand and define how these things work, whether they're being handmade, whether they're being created volumetrically for your cameras, right? 3D objects is a big deal. We want to understand both in AR and VR, this like realized world of 3 dimensions. We have to all understand how to build for that. We have to understand what the specs are, what the standards are. We all have to be moving in the same direction here, not bifurcated, so we can create. I mean, I'm thinking about companies like IKEA and Wayfair, right? They've created AR apps, both for Android and iOS. Awesome stuff. And IKEA, you know, I don't know, I mean, how many hundreds of thousands of things that they sell, right? If they want to create the real value of their AR app, I imagine they need to make 3D out of every single one of their objects. That's a huge undertaking, huge. And there is no real automatic way to do that. If any of you have been working in the space, you know what I'm talking about. There's no, you know, click a button and computer generates a 3D object and here you go. There's some sort of, maybe 75%, but there's some manual piece that still has to go into this, manual work that has to go in. So it's just simply hard right now. So we have to continue to work at, build standards and refine this so that we can scale and operate ourselves in 3D. You know, whether that's like game assets or real assets, photorealistic assets. One of the things I actually hypothesize, we talk about this a lot, is, you know, of course brands want their assets to look beautiful. Why wouldn't you? If you're a brand, you want your asset to look crystal, perfect, beautiful, right? Do consumers care? I don't know. So, you know, file size of a perfect Ford, brand new Ford Escape, okay? You know, that's a big undertaking. There's a lot of manual hours that go into building that thing and, you know, the file size of that thing. And maybe if you had a kind of a lesser model of it, a little bit, you know, smaller, you know, if you put that in front of consumer, could they really tell you the difference between the crystal clear one and maybe the small one? I'm not advocating for bad quality, no doubt. I'm not saying that at all. But I think, again, very strongly around the standards, the specs, how do we kind of scale these things? We have to understand what the consumer threshold is as we get to photorealistic assets. With Google, our strategy really is to try to bring AR, VR to as many of our first-party apps and services as we can. So at its core, at the end of the day, we're not trying to necessarily recreate a lot of the things. And we've done a lot of stuff. We've created Tilt Brush. We've created blocks. If you know what these things are VR tools that people use to create in 3D, paint and volumetric create. So we've built VR apps from the ground up. And then we're supporting AR, like I showed you Google Maps, right? And Google Lens. Like we're taking things that are already being done and people use all day long, and we're adding AR to them. And I think this strategy of trying to meet consumers where they are is a good one, hopefully. You know, we're not trying to, again, be too invasive into people's lives. We really have to understand about those behaviors and really trying to meet people where they are. And so we're going to try to do that in as many places as we can. And at the end of the day, do you know what this is, by the way? Last thing I'm going to talk about. Have you guys seen this? Have you done this? This is the Arts and Culture app that we launched. Love this app. Apparently I look like this guy and that guy with the red hat. So we launched this thing. I was at one of our big sales events, internal sales events, and we had Amit Sood, who is the director of the Arts and Culture Lab, and he came up on stage. He was telling the story about how they launched the Arts and Culture app. This thing crashed Google, right? Did you know that? Nothing crashes Google, okay? Like this thing, it went out, it launched, it got in the hands of people, it went viral, celebrities, Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, like it went everywhere, okay? And this thing blew up overnight, and then everybody's doing their things and, you know, doing their face thing, and it's like, wow, amazing, this thing went crazy. How is that possible? Well, the reason why, and why I think, you know, I talk to a lot of people, I talk to a lot of brands, and we talk about face, talk about inward camera, and we say, you know, hats, and my hats are off to Snapchat, Facebook. People who are really pioneering things like Lens, and you know, you've younger people that are doing this right now. But you know, oftentimes you get people that are kind of scoffing at, like, oh, maybe that's just like a playful thing, or you know, whatever. I actually disagree very much because Number one, the reason the way this thing crashed Google is because people are egotistical. They love to look at their faces, okay? And they did this over and over and over, and I did it over and over. I did it with my kid over and over and over. So people will do anything with their face on it. But more importantly, I think there's a huge opportunity in putting, we see it whether it's placing stuff on your face, be it makeup or objects or try-on or things like that. I think overall, we're just at the tip of the iceberg right now where we think there's an opportunity in being able to understand your face, more than it just being what everybody is easily, wants to do. It's easily accessible. And again, when you're thinking about that behavior, right? Me pulling out my phone and doing this is the easiest thing there is. We do this all day long, 100 times a day. And more importantly, whether you're inside or outside, whether it's night or day, whether you're at the beach or wherever, your face is always with you. So it's very easy to do, it's very quick to do, and people love to do it because they love their faces. So I think we're just at the tip of the I'll leave that with you. I think that's where the tip of our iceberg with faces. But overall, we're super excited about where AR and VR, where immersive computing is going, where Lens is going. We're going to continue to see a lot of effort at Google around that. And in general, we're very bullish about the entire space and love what everybody's doing, be it Facebook, be it Magic Leap, be it Microsoft. Everybody's helping to push this forward. And on the content side, be it the New York Times, be it the movie studios, be it a number of folks, everybody's helping to push this along. These startups that are pitching us, great ideas. We need to support this industry. Early days, but I'm confident that we're going to get very far in some time here. So thank you very much.